back here live. Some technical difficulties. Apologize about that. We're right side up now. I heard that we were sideways, so that's no good for viewing purposes. We're going to be a little bit more narrow now, but hopefully this will work a little bit better. So I was talking about dinking before. Hopefully you're able to see that sideways or upright. But the basic technique is you're dropping the wrist here and you're lifting up. Same thing on the backhand. You're just setting the angle and you're lifting up. And one of the common mistakes is you're backing off the kitchen line. So if I'm here and somebody hits it beyond the kitchen line, I'll back up and I'll try to hit it instead of holding my ground and taking it out of the air, which is what you really don't want to do. When you're at the kitchen line, you're already in the best possible position, so there's no reason to move back, which leads us into the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the volley. I just want to hit a few more dinks so you can see it right side up. A few here, so you can see it from a different angle. So there you go. That's the basic dink. We're always lifting, we're always keeping it out in front, and we're trying to bounce it in front of our opponents. Because the whole purpose of the dink is to hit a neutralizing shot that will either get an error or a pop-up from your opponents. You're going to try to keep them on the move, and you're going to try to get them to hit it from low. So by getting the ball to bounce, it's always going to end up quite a bit lower than if they get it in the air. So that brings us into our next thing, which is the volley, which you're going to get more often at the front of the court, at the kitchen line, but most often you're going to finish points with the volley up at the kitchen line. So you're going to dink until you get something that you can hit and take it as a volley. A volley, for those of you who might not know, is a ball that you're just going to strike in the air. So I'm going to go up here, we're going to keep a rally going down the line to each other, and I'm just going to demonstrate the basic technique of the volley.
Faster?
Oh, that's cheating. Alright, so that's your basic demonstration of the volley. We're keeping the paddle out in front. A lot of people try to take too big a swing. That's not really necessary. A lot of times you're not going to have time to take a big swing, so you're keeping it out in front. It's all about the timing. And think about the paddle face as being your fist. If you're going to punch someone, you're going to punch them straight ahead like this, not to the side, either way. So the paddle face is your fist. You're going to extend out with the full face of the paddle, not like this, not like this. That's going to cause mishits, and you're not going to have good direction on your shots. So we're punching out on the volley. It's really all about the timing. A lot of times you're going to get a higher ball, and it's just about putting a little something on it and putting it at the right angle. Down the middle is a great place in doubles. If you can get it down through the middle, most often winners are hit down through the middle. So that's your basic volley. Let's show a couple more. And there's a couple more. So the basic objective of the volley is usually to put pressure on your opponent in some capacity, either to hit it at them hard or to place it to a place where you can then hit a winner on the next one. So usually once it comes to a volley portion of the point's going to be over sometime pretty soon after that, or it should be. So you should be generally pretty aggressive with your volleys. Of course, it depends on the height of the ball. The higher the ball, the easier it is to finish, because then you have a better angle down at your opponent's feet. So the basic objective of the volley is usually to hit the opponent's feet, whether they're at the back of the court or the front of the court. Of course, that's much easier when the ball is higher. Of course, we're not going to hit the ball to the same place depending on where our opponents are. If they're back, we want to keep them back, and if they're up, we want them to volley from their shoelaces. So that's the basic objective of the volley. We're going to do some serves now. Let's see, move the camera here. I'm going to grab this for me. So the basic strategy of the serve is to get it in and to get it deep. I don't teach a lot of aggressive serving. The serve is not a weapon in pickleball, in doubles at least. Most people are going to be playing doubles, and you really just want to get it in, get it deep, not shoot yourself in the foot. As long as you're doing that, I'm not really going to have too much to say about it as long as it's legal. So we're going to go over a few of the rules as well as some basic technique on the serve. So the rules are that you have to hit the ball out of your hand from behind the line, and you can't serve outside either the center mark or the sideline. So there's an invisible line that extends beyond the single sideline and the center mark. You can't serve outside of that. You have to serve from behind it, and it has to be in an upward motion like this, with the tip of your paddle below your wrist, so here up rather than anything overhand, and it has to be struck below your waist. So you can't serve down on it from up here. So this would be a legal serve, like that, and something like this would not be legal, because I'm coming down on it, I'm coming up from too high, and I'm not lifting it up. So it should be underhand, and you probably won't have a problem. As far as the technique goes, it's really just important to keep your wrist locked. People have a lot of problems with that sometimes, where they're trying to swing with the serve and the wrist is going this way or that way, and it's very difficult to control the serve consistently like that. So you really want to think about it as you would think about horseshoes or cornhole, where you're throwing the beanie bags. You're just going straight back and straight forward with the paddle in your hand, and keeping your wrist nice and firm so that it's not moving around at contact. As long as you keep those in play, just like that, you shouldn't have too much problem with the serve. It's not a very complicated shot, although you'd be surprised some people have problems, especially on windy days. But make sure you give yourself a big target as well. As long as you're getting the serve in, you're getting the point started, they're going to hit the return back to you, and you're going to have a chance to hit a third. So a couple legal serves here. And I'm just trying to get it in, trying to get it deep. That's a great start for the serve. You don't really have to worry about it too much more than that when you're just starting off. As you get better and better, you might try to steer it to your opponent's weaker side. But the main thing is you want to make them run as far as possible. So the deeper you serve, the better off you're going to be, because they have further to get to the kitchen line. And that brings us to the next thing we're going to do, which is some returns. And I'm actually going to have Hannah go to that side with the balls and serve to me, so you can see me hit a return. And again, the objective on the return is to get it in and get it deep. Because of the two bounce rule, where the ball has to hit the court twice before anyone can volley it, I'm always going to have the advantage as the returner, because I can return and then follow my shot in, knowing that they're going to have to let that ball bounce. The team at the net always has a huge advantage in pickleball, so you want to get in as fast as you can. If there's one thing you remember from this, it's that you follow your return in 100% of the time. Never will you stay back. It's just not ever a part of pickleball. You want to think of that almost as a rule. Return and come in, and always remember you can give yourself as much time as you need to get in behind your return. Because they have to let it bounce, you can literally hit a lob. They're going to have to let that ball bounce, and you can stroll to the kitchen line if that's what makes you happy. But obviously, a low driving return will serve you a little bit better, but you also don't want to out-hit your movement to where you can't get to the kitchen line. So the main thing is you're keeping the swing simple, you're giving yourself time to get in, and then you're following your shot behind. I just kind of let my momentum carry me towards the kitchen line. I'm not running through the shot, and I'm not standing. I'm hitting, and I'm letting my momentum from the swing carry me forward. And as we know, on the return, my partner's already going to be up. So a lot of times they can help me out with that next shot. If they hit that next shot to them, I will have a little bit more time to come in. But you should be giving yourself enough time with your return to get to the kitchen line regardless. Because obviously the further back you are, the more access they have to your feet, the more likely you're going to miss or pop the ball up. A couple more. And there's really no reason to overhit the return. You don't want to take a huge backswing because a lot of times that will cause an error. You're putting pressure on your opponents as the server simply by returning the ball and coming forward. You put them in an awkward spot because of the 2-bounce rule where they have to let it bounce. Now you have possession of the kitchen line and they're back, and then they have to either hit a third shot drive or a third shot drop, which we're going to go into next. That's the best strategy for them. If they do try to lob you, that's generally not a good idea. Which we'll touch on a little bit more. But you're always going to be in the driver's seat as long as you're making your returns and you're coming in behind them. One more. So the last shot that we're going to go into today is the third shot. So the third shot is simply the shot you're going to hit after you serve the ball. So the third shot of the rally. The serve is the first one, the return is the second one, and you're then hitting that next shot after the return as the serving team. And because of the 2-bounce rule, you can't take it out of the air, and now if the returners have done their job, they've returned deep, and they've come in behind it, and both of them are at the kitchen line, you and your partner are back. So after you serve, obviously you want to stay all the way behind the baseline because any space you move in is going to give them a chance to back you up, because if I creep into here and they return it to my toes, I then have to back up knowing that I can't take the ball out of the air. So make sure you're staying behind the baseline after your serve. It'll make your third shot a lot easier. With the third shot, you're not going to try to lob. Some people will try to lob at the beginning. Pickleballs are just too light to really get over a team fast enough to make them effective. You'll always have the third shot drop available to you no matter who you play. That's usually the best thing to do to get yourself forward, and that's simply trying to drop the ball softly in the kitchen from back here. So I'm going to drop my paddle, the angle up, because you need some lift to this shot, and then I'm really just going to place the paddle in front of me with a short backswing and push forward. It's a very simple sort of shot. You put the paddle in place and you push. And that's known as the shovel drop, and it's extremely effective at getting you forward after the serve. So my objective is simply to keep it low enough and short enough in the kitchen to allow me to come forward. It's not going to win me the point, but it will win me possession of the kitchen line, at least put me on equal footing with my opponents. So let's see a couple here. Just trying to drop it in front of her here. So paddle out in front, no backswing, and I'm just pushing. So there you go. You're really trying to keep this as simple as you can, because right now she's feeding it pretty easy to me. The return sometimes will be coming a little bit faster. You're trying to take pace off here. You're not trying to hit these too high. The peak of the drop should probably be at your opponent's shoulder, somewhere around there. But the really important thing is you're keeping it below the level of the net, because then they have to lift their shot and they're not going to be as aggressive. If you're always popping them up, they're going to have a pretty good chance to smash it at you, and it's going to be tough to get forward. Of course, you're trying not to miss too many in the net, because obviously you lose the point right there. It's always better to pop it up than it is to just immediately miss in the net. But in order to get better at this shot, sometimes you're going to have to miss a few in the net just to get a feel for where that kitchen line is. So let's see a couple more, because this is such an important shot. I would have to say the third shot drop is probably the most important shot to get good at pickleball. If you're not making third shot drops, you're not really winning any points, because of the scoring system where you can only score points in your serve. If you're not making your third shot drop, you're not getting forward, and you're just not going to win enough points. So let's see a couple more. And a lot of times your drop doesn't have to be perfect, especially if they have a bad habit of backing up off the kitchen line. If they give you extra space on this, you definitely want to use it. You're just trying to avoid them really smashing it on you. So you'll always be able to keep it low if you keep it in the kitchen, since volleying from there is not allowed. But if they give you the extra space by backing up, by all means use it. And your whole objective here with this shot and this next shot, the third shot drive, is really to just get you forward. It's not to win the point, because you're really not going to win points very often against a team that's up when you're back. So the next shot we're gonna cover a little bit is the third shot drive, which tennis players love, and everyone loves to hit the ball hard, so it is fun. It's not quite as effective as the third shot drop a lot of times, just because if your opponents have good hands, they can send it back at you by using your power against you. It really depends on who you're playing. So this is more of a shot to use selectively, but it's certainly very effective. And most people try to take too big a swing on the drive. You want to keep the backswing pretty simple here. Take it back, forward, and really just get a good weight transfer, because that's going to give you plenty of power. As long as you're getting your weight going forward and you get a good solid hit on it, that'll give you plenty of power. And then the more important thing is to keep it low, because obviously it's a short court. If you hit it too high and too hard, it's going to fly out too much. And the other thing is they're going to be able to counter it much more easily if it's up above the level of the net versus low. So most of the time, a third shot drive, you're just trying to get a shorter reply so that you can then drop the next one in the kitchen. That's usually what's going to happen. If you get a bonus point here and there by driving it hard at them and getting them to miss, that's just a bonus. But I'll hit a couple here for you so you can see the technique. And notice I'm not going to take a giant swing. It's just not necessary. It's really about the weight transfer and the contact. See, Hannah can't handle it even with that short backswing. But you can see it's really about the weight transfer. I'm not swinging all that hard. You're just extending through the shot, and you're trying to keep it low here. So to recap here, after the serve, the third shot is super, super important. You're going to either drive them or drop them. There's not really another option that you want to use. The lob is not very effective, and you always want to be attempting to hit one of these shots. If you keep attempting these shots, you're not always going to be successful in the beginning, but you will get better and better at executing them, and this is just the right way to play, and you will get better at it. So that pretty much sums up Pickleball 101. We covered third shot drops, serves, returns, dinks, and volleys. If you can start yourself off on the right foot on all of those, you're going to be well served to getting a lot better. And really just the whole objective of pickleball is to keep the ball short in the kitchen most of the time until you get something higher to smash. And returning and coming in, can't really overstate how important that is. And then just keeping your opponents back as long as you can. So if you're returning and coming in and you're volleying nice and deep, they're not really going to have an opportunity to come forward. And the same thing goes if they do back up, immediately take possession of the kitchen line. It's always an advantage to be up and keep them back as long as possible. So most of pickleball, as you get better and better, will be played up at the front of the court. So that's when the dinks and the volleys come to play more and more. When you really start out, it's a lot of serving and returning and thirds, where you're going to miss a lot in that stage. That's why I like to do some drills at the front of the court in the beginning, and especially right now, you might not have the space for a full court, but if you can get out in your driveway and just dink back and forth a little bit, whether it's over a chair or whatever it is, you just need 14 feet, 7 on each side, dink back and forth a little bit, work on the technique, really drop the wrist, push up. It's really just fun to dink around, and you get a feel for the ball, and you have a lot more success early on. So just get out there and have some fun with the dink, and hope you enjoyed this video. Hope we can get out on the course soon.